It's easily done, isn't it? Someone starts to argue strongly for the opposing view to yours, and before you know it, you're off, shutting them down, blocking their view out, pushing your own view as hard as you can. Perhaps even to the point of turning it into a competition. Who's going to give in first? Is that being aggressive? Is shouting aggressive? Or is it possible to be aggressive even if you're keeping your voice down and apparently staying calm? And what does it mean to sound like or to be assertive? And how is assertiveness different from aggression? Well, by the end of this session, you'll not only know the difference between assertiveness and aggression, but you'll also have the ingredients to be able to express yourself in an assertive way. But firstly, it might be handy to start with a definition or two. Firstly, aggression. Now, we could say that being aggressive is simply a way that we promote ourselves or pay singular attention to our views, our thoughts, our feelings, our wishes, to the point of excluding the other person or even hurting them. And we could also then say that someone who is being assertive, as the flip side, is sticking up for their own feelings, thoughts and wishes, whilst also keeping an eye on the other person's feelings, thoughts and wishes, what they need, in other words. So a much more even balance. So what does it sound like to be assertive? Well, we're going to figure that one out. But firstly, what I'd like you to do is to recall an instance in the last few days where you were trying to make a point strongly, and maybe it wasn't going very well, or the other person wasn't paying attention, or something went wrong in a conversation. Pause the video in a moment and scribble down the details of who you were talking to, what you were talking about, and the point that you were trying to make. Pause the video now. So, welcome back. How did you get on? So you should have your situation scribbled out now in some way. Now I'm going to ask you to pause the video again in a moment, and this time I'm going to ask you to simply write down in just 2 or 3 words the names of the feelings that you were experiencing during the situation that you've just described on paper, when you were right in the middle of it, if you can possibly remember. You should just end up with a few words. Pause the video now. Okay, welcome back. How did you get on? How did you find it putting words to feelings? Not everybody finds it straightforward. And are you sure that you named feelings and not just opinions? Just check over your words, your scribblings for a moment. Okay, good, well done. So far, so good. Now, in a moment, I'm going to ask you again to pause the video and then to construct a few sentences, and I mean just a few sentences, that express 3 things with the ingredients that you've already assembled. Firstly, how you felt. Secondly, specifically what the feeling was about within the topic that you were talking about. And thirdly, why you had that feeling so strongly about that thing in the conversation. So, how you felt, what about, and why. Try to use as few words as you can. You may even have a go at reading them out, either into some device, maybe one different to the one you're using now, or do it to somebody else. If you do it on a camera of some sort, play it back to yourself, or get the feedback from the other person. Now, pause the video now, and I'll see you in a few minutes' time. Welcome back. How did you get on? The intention with assertiveness is to try to use just the words that we really need to send our message strongly enough so that the other person gets it, without making it so strong or overbearing that it turns them off or shuts them down. The critical element here is the name of the feeling. That has to be in the messaging. I'm uncomfortable, I'm pleased, I'm worried, I'm unhappy. So here's an example. I'm uncomfortable, the feeling, about how this conversation is going. That's the what about. And here's the why. Because we seem to be talking across each other. I just don't think we're listening to each other. And then pausing to let the information sink in. Now, there are two further critical aspects to being assertive and being really successful at it. The first is being honest about the feeling that we're having. And the second is to make sure that we're leaving enough space, enough pauses, enough silence and airtime for the other person's feelings, thoughts and wishes. So being aggressive or being assertive does have to do with our voice, our tone or our volume, but it's really about making sure that we're not just looking after ourselves during the conversation. Retraining ourselves to be more honest, more assertive, takes time and perseverance. Please do stick with it, and you will notice that people really do sit up and pay attention to what you have to say more readily, with less effort from you.